The rhythmic hum of conversation, clinking glasses, and upbeat music filled the dimly lit bar in the heart of San Francisco. Lucy Harper, standing behind the bar, moved with effortless precision, mixing drinks with a practiced ease that made her a favorite among regulars and newcomers alike. Her smile, charming yet guarded, was as much a part of her uniform as the snug black t-shirt she wore. 2 whiskey sours and a mojito, she repeated aloud as she flipped a shaker in her hand, the motion smooth and confident. "You're a magician, Lucy," a patron teased from the counter. "I know," Lucy replied with a wink, sliding the finished drinks toward them. Her charm came naturally, an armor she wore as comfortably as her leather boots. The bar was Lucy's stage and she played her role perfectly. She was witty, quick to laugh, and always ready with a clever comeback. But beneath the surface she kept her distance. Years of heartbreak and disappointment had taught her one thing: don't let anyone in too close. Later that night, as the bar settled into its usual rhythm, Lucy took a moment to lean against the counter, her gaze sweeping across the room. She recognized most of the faces, regulars who came to drink away the stress of their days or flirt with her, hoping to catch her attention. It wasn't that Lucy didn't enjoy their company. She just didn't let herself get attached. People came and went, and it was easier to let them pass through her life without leaving a mark. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, pulling her from her thoughts. She pulled it out to find a message from her best friend, Mia. "Mia, still coming to brunch tomorrow? Don't you dare bail on me." Lucy smirked, typing back a quick reply. "Lucy, wouldn't dream of it." She put her phone away, her smile fading as she returned to the bar. Lucy's philosophy on relationships was simple. Keep it light, keep it fun, and never, ever let it get complicated. It wasn't always easy. There were nights when the laughter and noise of the bar weren't enough to drown out the loneliness that crept in after the last customer left. But Lucy had made her peace with that. She had her routines, her friends, and the freedom to live life on her terms. That was enough. Or so she told herself. As the night wore on, Lucy found herself watching the clock, counting down the minutes until closing. The rain outside had picked up, the sound of droplets against the windows adding a cozy backdrop to the warm glow of the bar's interior. She had just started wiping down the counter when the door opened, a gust of cool air rushing in as a figure stepped inside. Lucy glanced up, expecting another late-night regular, but froze when her eyes landed on the woman who had just entered. The woman was striking, with an elegance that seemed out of place in the casual bar. Her tailored trench coat was damp from the rain, her dark hair pulled back into a neat bun. She looked around, her sharp eyes scanning the room before settling on an empty stool at the far end of the counter. Lucy's curiosity was piqued immediately. It wasn't often that someone so polished wandered into her bar, especially on a night like this. The woman sat down, placing her phone and a sleek leather wallet on the counter. Lucy grabbed a menu and walked over, her smile already in place. "Rough night or just avoiding the rain?" Lucy asked, sliding the menu toward her. The woman looked up, her eyes meeting Lucy's, and for a moment, Lucy felt like the air had been knocked out of her. There was something intense about her gaze, a quiet strength that made Lucy's usual confidence falter. "Both," the woman replied, her voice low and smooth. Lucy tilted her head, intrigued. "Well, you've come to the right place. I'm Lucy, by the way." "Samantha," the woman said, her lips curving into a faint smile. "Sam." "Nice to meet you, Sam," Lucy said, leaning against the counter. "What can I get for you?" Sam hesitated for a moment, glancing at the menu before meeting Lucy's gaze again. "Surprise me." Lucy grinned, already reaching for the ingredients. "I like a challenge." As Lucy mixed the drink, she couldn't help stealing glances at Sam. There was something different about her, something that made Lucy want to ask questions instead of sticking to the usual surface-level banter. When she placed the drink in front of Sam, a whiskey sour with a twist, Sam raised an eyebrow, her smile growing. "Impressive," she said after taking a sip. "I aim to please," Lucy said, her grin widening. They fell into conversation easily, the initial awkwardness melting away as the minutes passed. Sam was reserved but sharp, her wit matching Lucy's in a way that felt exhilarating. For the first time in a long while, Lucy found herself wanting to know more about Sam's work, her life, what had brought her into the bar on a rainy night. And for the first time in a long while, Lucy felt a flicker of something she hadn't let herself feel in years. Possibility. The steady hum of traffic outside Sam Miller's apartment was a constant reminder of her life's pace. Fast, relentless, and meticulously ordered. She sat at her dining table, the glow of her laptop screen illuminating the neat stack of legal documents she'd been reviewing for hours. Every line, every clause had to be perfect. It was how she approached everything. Perfection wasn't just a preference for Sam, it was a necessity. Her apartment reflected the same precision. Spotless countertops, bookshelves arranged by genre and height, and not a single piece of furniture out of place. Sam's life was a carefully constructed facade, a series of controlled steps to keep everything and everyone at arm's length. By all appearances, Sam was the embodiment of success. At 31, she was on track to become the youngest partner at her firm, her name already associated with high-profile cases and impressive courtroom victories. Her colleagues admired her, her superiors respected her, and her clients trusted her. But beneath the accolades and tailored suits, Sam carried a weight that she had long since learned to hide. As she typed out another email, her phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at the screen and saw her ex's name, Daniel. Her jaw tightened as she stared at the message. Daniel, we need to talk about Emma's school situation. Call me when you have time. The mention of Emma was enough to make Sam's chest tighten. Her 6-year-old daughter was the center of her world, the one person who mattered more than anything else. But raising Emma came with its own set of challenges. Challenges that Sam had kept hidden from almost everyone in her life. She sighed, running a hand through her dark hair as she set her phone down. Sam's past was a tangle of choices she rarely allowed herself to revisit. She had married young, more out of a sense of obligation than love, and while Emma had been the greatest gift of that union, the marriage itself had been a disaster. Daniel had struggled to accept Sam's sexuality when she came out to him, and their divorce had been messy, filled with bitter arguments and thinly veiled threats. Even now, years later, Daniel's presence loomed over her life like a shadow. He held the power to disrupt her carefully constructed world with a single phone call or a veiled accusation about her fitness as a mother. Sam had fought hard to gain joint custody of Emma, and she lived in constant fear of losing her. It was why she avoided relationships, why she kept her personal life so tightly sealed. The risk of letting someone in was simply too great. When Sam wasn't working late at the office, she spent her evenings with Emma. The two of them had a routine: reading bedtime stories, doing puzzles, and watching nature documentaries. Emma's laughter was the one thing that could cut through the noise in Sam's head, the one thing that made all the stress and sacrifices feel worth it. But as much as Sam loved her daughter, she couldn't ignore the loneliness that crept in during the quiet moments after Emma went to bed. Sam had resigned herself to the idea that this was how it had to be. Her career, her daughter, and her own guarded heart were all pieces of a puzzle that didn't leave room for anything or anyone else. Still, there were moments when cracks formed in Sam's carefully maintained armor. Like the other night when she had found herself staring out the window of her office, watching the rain blur the city lights. A colleague had invited her to dinner, a casual invitation that she had declined without a second thought. But as the evening dragged on, a restless energy had taken hold of her. She had walked through the city without a destination, the rain soaking through her coat, her thoughts circling back to the same question she tried to avoid. What if there's more than this? The question lingered, unsettling and persistent. Sam knew why she kept people at a distance. She had seen how fragile connections could be, how quickly they could break under the weight of expectations and disappointment. It was easier to focus on what she could control: her work, her daughter, her image. But there were nights when the silence in her apartment felt too heavy, when the sight of Emma's tiny sneakers by the door or her favorite stuffed animal on the couch reminded Sam of everything she was trying to protect, and everything she was missing. Sam closed her laptop, the legal briefs momentarily forgotten as she leaned back in her chair. Her phone buzzed again, this time with a reminder about an early morning deposition. She glanced at Emma's room, where the faint sound of a lullaby drifted through the door. For now, this was enough. It had to be. But in the quiet recesses of her mind, a tiny voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, there was more waiting for her out there, if she was brave enough to let herself reach for it. And that thought scared her more than anything. The rain fell in relentless sheets, turning the city streets into rivers of glistening black asphalt. Sam pulled her trench coat tighter around herself as she hurried down the block, her umbrella doing little to keep her dry. Her usual route home had been blocked by construction, forcing her to take a detour through an unfamiliar neighborhood. She was soaked by the time she spotted the bar. The soft neon glow of the sign, Harper's Haven, promised warmth and shelter from the storm. With a sigh of resignation, she pushed the door open, the bell above it jingling faintly as she stepped inside. The bar was alive with the low hum of conversation, the clinking of glasses, and the muffled thump of music playing from an old jukebox in the corner. Sam paused just inside the door, taking in the cozy, slightly worn atmosphere. Behind the bar, Lucy glanced up, her practiced smile in place as she scanned the room for new customers. Her gaze landed on Sam, and for a moment she stilled. Sam was an enigma, a striking woman with an air of quiet confidence, her sharp features softened by the rain clinging to her hair and coat. There was something about her presence, something magnetic that made Lucy's usual charm feel almost unnecessary. Sam hesitated before making her way to an empty stool at the bar. She slipped out of her coat, draping it over the back of the chair, and placed her umbrella on the floor beside her. Her dark hair was damp, and the faintest hint of frustration lingered in her expression as she glanced at the menu sitting on the counter. Lucy wiped her hands on a towel, smoothing the front of her black t-shirt before approaching. "Rough night?" Lucy asked, her tone light as she slid the menu closer. Sam looked up, her dark eyes meeting Lucy's, and something in her chest tightened. There was an openness in Lucy's gaze, an easy warmth that made Sam feel unmoored. "Something like that," Sam replied, her voice low but measured. Lucy leaned on the counter, a playful smile tugging at her lips. "Well, lucky for you, we're known for fixing bad nights. What's your poison?" Sam glanced at the menu, her fingers brushing over its edges before she spoke. "I'll take a gin and tonic." "Classic," Lucy said, reaching for a glass. "I respect that." As Lucy prepared the drink, she found herself stealing glances at Sam. There was a stillness to her, a sense of control that intrigued Lucy. She was used to customers who were loud, eager for attention, or drunk enough to spill their life stories. But Sam was different, reserved, poised, and yet, something about her seemed fragile, like a porcelain mask that could crack under the right pressure. When Lucy set the drink in front of her, Sam offered a small smile. "Thanks." "So," Lucy said, leaning on the counter again, "what brings you out in this weather?" "Besides the obvious rain dodging, of course." Sam hesitated, glancing at the drink before answering. "I got caught up at work. Didn't check the forecast." "Ah, work," Lucy said with a knowing nod. "The ultimate mood killer. What do you do?" "I'm a lawyer," Sam replied, taking a sip of her drink. Lucy raised an eyebrow. "A lawyer in a bar on a rainy night. Sounds like the beginning of a bad joke." Sam chuckled softly, surprising herself. "Hopefully not." The conversation unfolded gradually, like a delicate game of chess. Lucy asked questions, light-hearted at first, then more pointed, and Sam answered with a mix of reluctance and intrigue. "What about you?" Sam asked eventually, her voice softer now. "What's your story?" Lucy grinned. "Me? I'm just the bartender. But don't let the title fool you, I've got layers." Sam smirked, the corner of her mouth quirking upward. "I'll bet." Lucy's smile widened at the response. For someone who seemed so tightly wound, Sam had a wit that matched her own. And beneath the polished exterior, Lucy sensed a depth, a story waiting to be told. As the night wore on, the tension between them shifted, growing warmer, more electric. Lucy's usual charm came easily, but with Sam, it wasn't just about being charming. It was about peeling back the layers of someone who clearly didn't let others in often. And Sam, despite herself, found that she didn't mind. Lucy leaned closer, resting her elbows on the counter. "So, Sam," she said, her tone playful, "tell me, what's the most exciting thing you've done this week?" Sam raised an eyebrow, her expression skeptical. "Exciting?" "Yeah," Lucy said, smirking. "You know, something wild. Out of your routine. Something that makes you feel alive." Sam hesitated, her gaze dropping to her glass. "I don't do wild," she said finally. Lucy tilted her head, studying her. "Maybe you should." Sam looked up, her dark eyes meeting Lucy's, and for a moment the air between them felt charged. "Maybe," she said softly. The hours passed without either of them noticing. By the time Lucy glanced at the clock, it was well past midnight and the bar was nearly empty. "I should probably close up soon," Lucy said, though she made no move to end the conversation. Sam glanced around, realizing how late it had gotten. I didn't mean to keep you. You didn't, Lucy said, her smile lingering. But I don't want you walking out in that storm. How about one more drink? My treat. Sam hesitated, but something in Lucy's gaze made her nod. Okay. As Lucy reached for the bottle, she couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just another conversation. And from the way Sam's expression softened when she thought Lucy wasn't looking, she knew Sam felt it too. For the first time in a long while, Lucy let herself hope that this chance encounter might lead to something more. The last patrons of the bar shuffled out into the rain, their laughter fading into the night as Lucy locked the door behind them. The faint scent of whiskey and citrus lingered in the air, mixing with the soft hum of the jukebox, which played its final tune for the evening. Sam was still sitting at the bar, her posture composed but her hands wrapped tightly around her empty glass. Lucy leaned against the counter, her usual playful smile softer now as she studied her. Sam wasn't like anyone Lucy had met before. Her polished demeanor, the way she carried herself, it all suggested a life meticulously kept in order. Yet there was something in her eyes, an intensity that drew Lucy in and unsettled her all at once. It was like Sam was carrying a weight she wasn't ready to share, and for some reason Lucy wanted to be the one to help her lift it. You don't strike me as someone who usually lingers after hours, Lucy said, her voice gentle. Sam glanced up, her expression unreadable. I'm not. Then why are you still here? Lucy asked, her smile teasing but her tone sincere. Sam hesitated, her gaze dropping to the counter. I'm not sure, she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucy tilted her head, her curiosity deepening. Well, I'm glad you stayed, she said, her words hanging in the air between them. As Lucy began tidying up the bar, the silence between them grew heavy but not uncomfortable. Sam watched her move, her confidence and ease making her feel oddly at peace. It wasn't something Sam was used to, feeling at ease with someone she had just met. Do you always invite strangers to stay after closing? Sam asked, breaking the quiet. Lucy laughed, a warm, melodic sound that filled the space. Not usually, she said, glancing at Sam. But you don't feel like a stranger. The words caught Sam off guard, her heart skipping a beat as she looked down at her hands. I don't know if that's a good thing, she said softly. Maybe it is, Lucy said, her voice steady. When the bar was clean and the lights were dimmed, Lucy poured herself a small glass of wine and raised an eyebrow at Sam. One more drink? My place. Sam blinked, the directness of the invitation catching her off guard. I don't think that's a good idea, she said, though her tone lacked conviction. Lucy shrugged, her smile easy but her eyes serious. No pressure. I just figured the night doesn't have to end yet. Sam hesitated, the words tumbling over themselves in her mind. She knew she should say no, should thank Lucy for the drink and the conversation and leave before she let herself feel too much. But the warmth in Lucy's eyes, the openness in her smile, it was impossible to ignore. Okay, Sam said finally, her voice quiet but firm. Lucy's grin widened and she grabbed her jacket from behind the bar. Let's go. The rain had eased into a gentle drizzle by the time they reached Lucy's apartment, a cozy studio tucked above a bakery on a quiet street. The faint scent of fresh bread lingered in the stairwell as Lucy unlocked the door and pushed it open, revealing a space that was both lived in and inviting. String lights framed the windows, casting a soft glow over the room. Books and records were scattered on the shelves and a well-worn couch sat in the center, piled with mismatched throw pillows. Welcome to my humble abode, Lucy said, stepping aside to let Sam in. Sam looked around, a small smile playing on her lips. It's very you, she said, her voice lighter than before. Lucy laughed, tossing her keys onto a nearby table. I'll take that as a compliment. Lucy poured 2 glasses of wine and handed one to Sam before sinking onto the couch. Sam hesitated for a moment before sitting beside her, their knees brushing slightly. So, Lucy said, leaning back and sipping her wine. What's your story, Sam? And don't tell me it's just work and rainstorms. Sam smirked, swirling the wine in her glass. It's mostly work and rainstorms, she said, her tone dry but tinged with humor. Lucy chuckled, her gaze steady on Sam. I don't buy it. There's more to you than that. Sam met her eyes, something flickering in her expression. What about you? She countered. What's your story? Lucy tilted her head, pretending to think. Oh, you know, bartender by night, superhero by day. Or maybe it's the other way around. Sam rolled her eyes, but she couldn't stop the small laugh that escaped her lips. "You're relentless," Sam said, shaking her head. Lucy grinned. "It's one of my best qualities." As the conversation deepened, the air between them shifted, the easy banter giving way to something more intimate. Sam found herself sharing pieces of her life she usually kept hidden. Her love for classic literature, her tendency to stay up too late working cases, her habit of taking long walks in the rain when she needed to clear her head. Lucy listened intently, her own walls softening as she opened up about her passion for music, her dreams of traveling, and the way bartending had become both a job and a way to connect with people. "You're not what I expected," Sam said suddenly, her voice thoughtful. Lucy raised an eyebrow. "What did you expect?" Sam hesitated, then smiled. "I don't know. But not this." Lucy's smile softened. "Good. I like surprising people." When their glasses were empty and the conversation slowed, the silence between them felt charged, like a thread pulled taut. Sam glanced at the clock, a flicker of hesitation crossing her face. "I should probably go," she said, though she didn't move. Lucy leaned closer, her voice low. "Or you could stay." Sam's breath hitched, her pulse quickening as she searched Lucy's eyes. For a moment she considered all the reasons she should leave, all the walls she had carefully built to protect herself. But then Lucy's hand brushed against hers, a gentle, grounding touch, and the decision didn't feel so complicated anymore. "Okay," Sam said, her voice barely audible. Lucy smiled, the warmth in her gaze melting away the last of Sam's hesitation. In that moment, as the rain continued to fall softly outside, neither of them knew how much this night would change their lives. But for now it was enough to simply be here together and let the rest unfold. The apartment glowed warmly under the soft light of string lights draped along the windows, creating an ambience that was as comforting as it was intimate. Sam sat on the couch, the wine glass cradled in her hand as she listened to Lucy recount a story about one of her more eccentric bar regulars. "And he just started singing, like loudly, right in the middle of happy hour," Lucy said, her hands animated as she spoke. "It wasn't even karaoke night." Sam chuckled, the sound low and rich. "What did you do?" Lucy leaned back, grinning. "I joined in. What else could I do?" Sam shook her head, smiling as she watched Lucy's face light up. There was an ease to her, a confidence that drew Sam in like a moth to a flame. For someone who spent her life tightly controlling every aspect of her world, being with Lucy felt liberating. "You're not what I expected," Sam said softly, setting her glass on the coffee table. Lucy tilted her head, her smile softening. "What did you expect?" Sam hesitated, her fingers brushing against the hem of her blouse. "I don't know. Someone less real." Lucy's expression shifted, the humor fading into something more serious. She leaned forward, her elbows resting on her knees as her gaze locked onto Sam's. "I'm about as real as it gets," she said. Sam felt the weight of those words, the truth behind them settling in her chest. "That's what scares me," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucy reached out, her fingers brushing against Sam's. "You don't have to be scared," she said gently. "Not here. Not with me." The moment hung between them, charged and electric. Sam's gaze dropped to their hands, where Lucy's fingers rested lightly against hers. The warmth of her touch sent a shiver up Sam's spine, awakening something she hadn't felt in a long time, a longing raw and unguarded. "I don't usually do this," Sam said, her voice trembling slightly. "Neither do I," Lucy replied, her smile soft and reassuring. That was the truth. For all her flirtation and charm, Lucy rarely let anyone into her personal space, let alone her heart. But something about Sam felt different, like they had found each other at just the right moment, when both of them were ready to take a chance they hadn't even realized they needed. "Sam," Lucy said, her voice steady but laced with vulnerability. "If you want to leave, I'll understand. But if you stay, I want this to be real. No games, no walls. Just us." Sam looked up, her dark eyes meeting Lucy's. For a moment she hesitated, the weight of her fears pressing down on her. But then she saw the openness in Lucy's gaze, the quiet promise of something genuine, and the decision came easily. She leaned in, closing the space between them, and pressed her lips to Lucy's. The kiss was slow at first, tentative and exploring, but it quickly deepened as the tension between them gave way to a flood of emotion. Lucy's hands found Sam's waist, pulling her closer as the kiss grew more urgent. Sam let herself get lost in the sensation. The warmth of Lucy's lips, the way her fingers trailed along her back, the gentle hum of approval that escaped Lucy's throat. It was overwhelming and exhilarating, like stepping into the unknown and finding it wasn't so frightening after all. Lucy guided Sam to the couch, their movements unhurried but charged with anticipation. The world outside faded away, the sound of rain against the window a distant murmur compared to the rhythm of their breathing. They moved together with an intensity that was both tender and passionate, their touches speaking volumes in the silence. Lucy's hands were steady, tracing the lines of Sam's body as if memorizing every curve, every detail. Sam, in turn, let her guard down completely, her fingers threading through Lucy's hair as she surrendered to the moment. It wasn't just physical. It was emotional, a connection that went beyond anything either of them had expected. Every kiss, every touch felt like a declaration, a shared understanding that they were both letting each other see parts of themselves they rarely showed anyone else. "You're incredible," Lucy murmured against Sam's skin, her voice thick with emotion. Sam's breath hitched, her heart pounding as she looked into Lucy's eyes. "So are you," she whispered, her voice breaking slightly. The hours passed in a blur of heat and vulnerability, the space between them disappearing entirely. They explored each other with a quiet reverence, their movements a mixture of urgency and care. It was as if they were both trying to convey something words couldn't capture. A need to be seen, to be held, to be understood. When they finally lay tangled together on the couch, their breathing slowing as the intensity ebbed, neither of them spoke for a long time. Lucy rested her head against Sam's shoulder, her fingers tracing lazy patterns on Sam's arm. Sam closed her eyes, her mind spinning with everything that had just happened. She felt exposed, but for once it didn't terrify her. It felt freeing. "Thank you," Sam said softly, her voice barely audible. Lucy looked up at her, her brow furrowing slightly. "For what?" "For letting me be here," Sam said, her gaze sincere. Lucy smiled, leaning up to press a gentle kiss to Sam's forehead. "I wouldn't want you anywhere else," she said. In that moment, with the rain still falling softly outside and the warmth of Lucy's embrace grounding her, Sam felt something she hadn't felt in years: hope. The first rays of sunlight streamed through the window, painting the walls of Lucy's apartment in soft hues of gold and pink. The warmth of the morning was a stark contrast to the stormy night before, but inside the atmosphere felt heavier, charged with the emotions lingering from the hours they had shared. Sam stirred, her eyes fluttering open to the unfamiliar sight of Lucy's apartment bathed in daylight. For a moment she simply lay there, taking in the room. The cozy chaos of Lucy's space, a stack of books on the nightstand, a guitar propped in the corner, and the faint scent of coffee drifting from the kitchen, was so different from the pristine order of her own life. And then her gaze landed on Lucy. Lucy lay beside her, her hair tousled and her features softened in sleep. One arm was draped over her waist, her breathing steady and peaceful. She looked so at ease, so vulnerable, and Sam's chest tightened at the sight. Sam hadn't expected this. The night before, she had allowed herself to give in to something she hadn't felt in years, a connection that was both thrilling and terrifying. But now, in the quiet of the morning, the weight of what had happened settled heavily on her shoulders. He had let someone in. For so long, Sam had kept her heart guarded, convinced that letting anyone get too close would only end in heartbreak. And yet, in the span of a single night, Lucy had slipped past her defenses as if they weren't even there. The realization was both exhilarating and suffocating. Lucy stirred, her hand brushing against Sam's arm as she murmured something unintelligible. Sam froze, her breath hitching as Lucy's eyes slowly opened, blinking against the light. "Morning," Lucy said, her voice husky with sleep, a lazy smile tugging at her lips. Sam swallowed hard, her own lips curving into a faint smile. "Morning." Lucy propped herself up on one elbow, her hair falling messily around her face. "You okay?" she asked, her tone laced with genuine concern. Sam nodded quickly, her heart pounding. "Yeah, I'm fine." But she wasn't fine, not really. Her mind was racing with questions, doubts, and the nagging voice in her head that told her she wasn't ready for this for them. Sensing Sam's unease, Lucy decided to ease the moment. She stretched with a dramatic groan, flashing a grin. "I don't know about you, but I need caffeine if I'm going to function today." "Coffee?" Sam nodded again, grateful for the reprieve. "Sure." Thanks. Lucy slipped out of bed, grabbing an oversized t-shirt from the back of a chair and pulling it on as she padded barefoot to the kitchen. Sam watched her go, a strange ache settling in her chest. Lucy moved with a carefree ease that was so unlike Sam's own calculated demeanor. It was one of the things that had drawn her to Lucy in the first place. Her ability to live in the moment, to embrace life without overthinking it. But now that same quality scared her. In the kitchen, Lucy hummed to herself as she prepared the coffee. The events of the night before replayed in her mind, and a smile crept across her face. She felt lighter than she had in months, maybe years. For someone who had spent so long keeping people at arm's length, Lucy was surprised by how natural it had felt to let Sam in. There was something about her, an honesty, a vulnerability, that made Lucy want to break her own rules. As she poured the coffee into two mismatched mugs, Lucy glanced toward the bedroom, where Sam was still sitting on the edge of the bed, lost in thought. A flicker of doubt crossed Lucy's mind. Does she regret it? The thought stung, but Lucy pushed it aside. She wasn't one to overthink things, and she wasn't about to start now. Instead, she carried the mugs back to the bedroom, offering Sam a warm smile as she handed her one. Here you go. Strong, just how I like it, Lucy said, sitting beside her on the bed. Thanks, Sam murmured, taking the mug but barely meeting Lucy's eyes. The silence between them stretched, and Lucy could feel the shift in the air. Last night had been electric, filled with passion and connection, but now, in the light of day, something was different. Hey, Lucy said softly, setting her mug on the nightstand. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to, but, are you okay? Sam hesitated, her fingers tightening around the mug. I'm fine, she said, but her voice wavered. Lucy reached out, her hand brushing lightly against Sam's knee. You can talk to me, Sam. Whatever it is. Before Sam could respond, the shrill sound of her phone buzzing broke the moment. She flinched, setting the mug down as she reached for her phone on the nightstand. Sorry, she muttered, glancing at the screen. Her expression darkened. Everything okay? Lucy asked, her brow furrowing. Sam stood abruptly, her movements sharp and deliberate. I have to go, she said, her voice tight. What? Now? Lucy asked, standing as well. It's work, Sam said quickly, grabbing her jacket from the back of the chair. Lucy frowned, her heart sinking as she watched Sam move with a newfound distance. Sam, wait. I'm sorry, Sam said, her voice softening but her pace unrelenting. I'll call you. And then she was gone, the door closing behind her with a soft click. Lucy stood in the middle of the room, the coffee growing cold in her hands. The warmth and hope she had felt that morning had been replaced by a gnawing sense of uncertainty. What had happened? Was it something she said? Something she did? She sighed, setting the mugs back on the counter as she leaned against the kitchen island. The memory of Sam's touch, her laugh, her kiss, it all felt so vivid, so real. But now, with Sam gone, Lucy couldn't shake the feeling that the walls she thought they had torn down were already rebuilding themselves. The days stretched on, each one feeling heavier than the last. For Lucy, the vibrant energy that usually colored her life dulled to a muted gray. Behind the bar at Harper's Haven, she laughed at jokes and served drinks with her usual charm, but her heart wasn't in it. She replayed that morning in her mind over and over, the way Sam had looked at her, the way she had fled. Lucy had tried to convince herself that it didn't matter, that it was just another one-night stand. But it wasn't. The ache in her chest every time she thought of Sam told her it wasn't. At night, Lucy found herself staring at the ceiling of her dimly lit apartment, her mind a whirlwind of what-ifs. She thought about Sam's laugh, quiet and unguarded, and the way her eyes softened when she smiled. She thought about the vulnerability in Sam's touch, the way it had felt like she was giving Lucy a piece of herself she didn't share with anyone else. And she thought about the distance in Sam's voice when she left, the hurried apologies and the unanswered questions. What the hell am I doing? Lucy muttered to herself one night, sitting cross-legged on the couch with a glass of wine she hadn't touched. She wasn't supposed to get caught up like this. She wasn't supposed to care. But no matter how hard she tried, Lucy couldn't shake the feeling that Sam had come into her life for a reason. Across the city, Sam wasn't faring much better. She sat in her office late into the night, her desk illuminated by the cold glow of her computer screen. Legal briefs and case files were spread out before her, but her focus was non-existent. Her mind kept drifting back to Lucy, her smile, her laugh, the way she had made Sam feel alive in a way she hadn't in years. Sam had thought she could compartmentalize, could push her feelings aside and pretend that night hadn't meant anything. But the truth was, it had meant everything. And that terrified her. Sam leaned back in her chair, closing her eyes as she exhaled a shaky breath. The familiar weight of her secret pressed heavily on her chest. She had spent years building a life of order and control, carefully guarding the truth about Emma and the pain of her past. But Lucy had slipped past her defenses so effortlessly, and now Sam didn't know how to reconcile what she felt with the risks she faced. If she let Lucy in, what would that mean for Emma? For the delicate balance Sam had worked so hard to maintain? Could she trust Lucy with the parts of herself she kept hidden from everyone else? The questions consumed her, leaving Sam restless and uncertain. One evening, after tucking Emma into bed, Sam sat on the couch with her phone in her hand. Her thumb hovered over Lucy's contact, the memory of her voice ringing in her ears. She wanted to call. She wanted to explain. But every time she started to dial, the fear crept in. The fear of rejection, of vulnerability, of losing control. Sam sighed, setting the phone down with a frustrated groan. She pressed her palms against her face, willing herself to make a decision. But what decision? To protect herself and Emma by walking away, or to take a leap of faith and risk everything for the possibility of something real? Meanwhile, Lucy found herself drawn to every memory of Sam, no matter how much she tried to push them away. She could still hear Sam's voice, feel the warmth of her touch, see the hesitation in her eyes. The bar didn't offer its usual distractions. Every customer felt like a reminder of the woman who had walked out of her life as quickly as she had entered it. "Earth to Lucy," her co-worker Ellie said one night, snapping her fingers in front of Lucy's face. "You've been zoning out all week. What's going on?" Lucy shook her head, forcing a smile. "Nothing. Just tired." Ellie raised an eyebrow. "Tired, huh? Does tired have anything to do with the woman you disappeared with the other night?" Lucy's smile faltered and Ellie's eyes widened in realization. "It does." "Oh my God, Lucy, what happened?" "Nothing," Lucy said quickly, grabbing a rag and wiping down the bar to avoid Ellie's gaze. "It's nothing." Ellie leaned on the counter, her expression skeptical. "Lucy, you've been acting like a lovesick puppy all week. It's obviously not nothing." Lucy sighed, leaning against the bar as she stared at the floor. "She left," she said finally. "She just left. And I don't know why." Ellie frowned, her teasing tone softening. "Did she say anything?" "She said it was work," Lucy replied, her voice quiet. "But it felt like more than that. Like she was running away from something." Ellie placed a hand on Lucy's arm, squeezing gently. "Do you want to talk to her?" "Of course I do," Lucy said, frustration creeping into her voice. "But I can't force her to come back. If she doesn't want to be here, what can I do?" "Maybe she does want to be here," Ellie said, her voice thoughtful. "Maybe she's just scared." Sam stared out the window of her office, the city lights glittering against the night sky. She thought about Lucy, the way she had looked at her, not with judgment or expectation, but with a genuine openness that Sam wasn't used to. She thought about the way Lucy had made her laugh, the way her touch had made Sam feel safe and seen. And she thought about the fear of letting someone into her life, of exposing her vulnerabilities and risking the chaos that could follow. But as she stood there, the silence pressing in around her, another thought crept into her mind. What if Lucy was worth the risk? Sam closed her eyes, her decision finally crystallizing in her heart. She couldn't run forever. Not from Lucy. Not from herself. The bar was alive with its usual hum of life. A group of friends laughing loudly in the corner booth, a couple swaying to the soft rhythm of the jukebox, and Lucy moving effortlessly behind the counter, pouring drinks and exchanging witty banter with customers. But her mind was elsewhere. Lucy wiped down the counter absent-mindedly, her thoughts drifting back to Sam for what felt like the 100th time that day. It had been nearly a week since that morning, and the absence had carved an ache she couldn't ignore. Then, as if summoned by the sheer force of her thoughts, the door opened with a jingle of bells, and there she was. Sam stood in the doorway, her posture uncertain but her gaze scanning the room until it landed on Lucy. For a moment neither of them moved. Lucy's heart leaped, surprise and relief crashing over her in equal measure. Sam took a hesitant step forward, then another until she reached the bar. "Hey," she said softly, her voice almost lost in the background noise. Lucy didn't bother hiding her smile. "Hey yourself. Long time no see." Sam slid onto the stool across from Lucy, her movements careful, almost guarded. "Yeah. Sorry about that. You don't owe me an apology," Lucy said, her tone light but her eyes searching. "I just wasn't sure if I'd see you again." Sam hesitated, glancing at her hands. "Neither was I." The honesty in her words took Lucy by surprise, and for a moment, the noise of the bar seemed to fade. "Well, you're here now," Lucy said, breaking the silence. "What can I get you?" "Same as last time?" Sam nodded, a faint smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "Gin and tonic." Lucy got to work, but her mind was racing. She wanted to ask where Sam had been, what had kept her away, but she didn't want to push, didn't want to risk scaring her off again. When Lucy placed the drink in front of her, Sam wrapped her hands around the glass but didn't take a sip. Instead, she looked at Lucy, her expression softening. "I missed this," Sam admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucy felt a warmth spread through her chest, her earlier doubts melting away. "Me too," she said simply. Their conversation picked up where they had left off, the ease between them returning as if no time had passed. They talked about everything and nothing: work, favorite movies, embarrassing childhood stories. But beneath the surface, Lucy could feel the tension. Sam was holding something back. Over the next few days, Sam's visits became more frequent. She would stop by the bar after work or text Lucy with spontaneous invitations for coffee or lunch. Each time, Lucy felt her connection to Sam deepen, like they were carving out a space in each other's lives that neither of them had anticipated. But as their bond grew stronger, so did Lucy's sense that Sam wasn't telling her everything. It was in the way Sam would sometimes glance over her shoulder, as if checking for someone who wasn't there. Or the way her mood could shift in an instant. One moment warm and open, the next distant and distracted. And then there were the questions Sam avoided. When Lucy asked about her childhood, Sam would laugh and redirect the conversation. When Lucy tried to learn more about her work, Sam would give vague answers, her words careful and rehearsed. One evening, as they sat in Lucy's apartment sharing a bottle of wine, Lucy decided to test the waters. "You're a hard person to figure out, you know that?" she said, her tone light but her eyes watching Sam closely. Sam raised an eyebrow, her lips curving into a faint smirk. "Am I?" Lucy nodded, leaning back against the couch. "Yeah. It's like you've got this wall up and every time I get close to climbing it, you raise it higher." Sam's smirk faded and she looked down at her glass, her fingers tracing the rim. "Sorry," Lucy said quickly, her heart sinking at Sam's reaction. "I didn't mean to push. I just like you, Sam. A lot. And sometimes it feels like you're here but you're not really here. You know?" Sam didn't respond right away, her jaw tightening as she stared into her wine. Finally, she sighed, setting the glass on the coffee table. "It's not you," she said, her voice low. "I'm just complicated." Lucy frowned, leaning forward. "Everyone's complicated, Sam. But if this is going to work, if we're going to work, you've got to let me in." Sam met her gaze, her eyes shadowed with an emotion Lucy couldn't quite place. "I want to," she said softly. "But I don't know if I can." The admission hung between them, heavy and unresolved. Lucy felt a pang of frustration, but it was overshadowed by the vulnerability in Sam's voice. "Okay," Lucy said after a moment, her tone gentle. "I'm not asking for everything all at once. But I need something. Piece of you. Can you give me that?" Sam hesitated, her gaze dropping to her hands. "I'll try," she said finally. It wasn't the answer Lucy had hoped for, but it was enough, for now. As the days turned into weeks, Lucy couldn't ignore the signs that Sam was carrying something much bigger than she let on. She noticed the way Sam's phone would buzz with messages she never opened, the tension in her shoulders whenever certain topics came up, the flashes of fear that crossed her face when she thought Lucy wasn't looking. And though Lucy didn't want to pry, didn't want to push Sam away, she couldn't shake the feeling that whatever Sam was hiding wasn't just a part of her. It was shaping everything about their relationship. It wasn't just a wall. It was a door Lucy wasn't sure Sam was ready to unlock. But as Lucy sat alone in the bar one night, cleaning glasses and thinking about Sam's quiet smiles and hesitant touches, she made a decision. Whatever it was, whatever Sam was hiding, Lucy was willing to wait. Because for the first time in a long time she felt like she had found something real. And that was worth fighting for. The tension in the air was palpable as Lucy stood in the middle of her apartment, arms crossed, her usually warm eyes now sharp with frustration. Sam sat on the edge of the couch, her fingers gripping the fabric as though it were the only thing tethering her to the room. The space between them felt like a chasm, one that had been growing wider with each unspoken truth. "I can't do this anymore, Sam," Lucy said, her voice calm but laced with an edge of hurt. "You keep pulling me in, but every time I think I'm starting to understand you, you shut me out again." Sam looked down at her hands, her jaw tightening. "I'm not shutting you out," she said quietly. "Yes, you are," Lucy countered, taking a step closer. "You're hiding something and I'm tired of pretending it's not there. I care about you, Sam. But I need to know who you really are. All of you." Sam's chest rose and fell with a deep, shaky breath. She wanted to explain, to make Lucy understand, but the words felt caught in her throat, tangled with fear and guilt. "It's not that simple," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Lucy crouched down in front of her, her hands resting gently on Sam's knees. "I'm not asking for perfect, Sam. I'm asking for honest. Please." The weight of Lucy's words settled heavily over Sam, and for a moment she was silent, her gaze fixed on a distant point beyond Lucy's shoulder. The fear she had been carrying for years felt suffocating now, threatening to pull her under. But the earnestness in Lucy's eyes, the quiet strength in her voice, it was enough to pierce through the layers of armor Sam had built around herself. "I have a daughter," Sam said finally, her voice trembling as she forced the words out. Lucy blinked, the confession catching her off guard. "A daughter," she echoed, her tone softening with surprise. Sam nodded, her fingers twisting together nervously. "Emma. She's 6. Lucy sat back slightly, trying to process the revelation. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked gently. Sam hesitated, her eyes filling with an emotion that was a mix of love and pain. "Because it's complicated. Her father. He doesn't make things easy." Sam stood, pacing the room as if the movement might help her untangle the storm of thoughts swirling in her head. "We were together for years," she began, her voice steadying as she finally started to open up. "We met in law school and everything seemed perfect. We got married, we had Emma. But then I realized I wasn't being honest with myself. About who I am." Lucy watched her, her heart aching at the vulnerability in Sam's words. "I tried to make it work," Sam continued, her hands gesturing as she spoke. "For Emma's sake. But I couldn't keep living a lie. So I told him the truth. That I'm gay." Sam's voice broke slightly and she stopped pacing, turning to face Lucy. "He didn't take it well. At all." Lucy stood, closing the distance between them. "What happened?" Sam's shoulders sagged, the weight of the memories pressing down on her. "We divorced. And for the most part we managed to keep things civil for Emma. But every time I try to move on, every time I even think about seeing someone, he uses it against me. He threatens to take me to court to fight for custody." Lucy's breath caught. "Can he do that?" "He hasn't won yet," Sam said bitterly. "But the stress, the constant fear. It's exhausting. And if he finds out about you..." Sam stopped, her voice breaking off as she looked away. "I just didn't want to put you through that." Lucy felt a rush of emotions, shock, empathy, and a deep aching sadness for the pain Sam had been carrying alone. "Sam," she said softly, reaching out to take her hands. "Why didn't you trust me with this?" "I was trying to protect you," Sam said, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I didn't want you to feel trapped in my mess. And I didn't want to risk losing Emma. She's my whole world." Lucy squeezed her hands, her voice firm but gentle. "You don't have to do this alone. I'm not going anywhere." Sam shook her head, her voice trembling. "You don't understand. He'll use anything, anyone, to make me look like an unfit mother. And if it comes down to choosing between you and Emma, I can't lose her, Lucy. I just can't." Lucy's heart ached at the raw vulnerability in Sam's words. "I get it," she said softly. "But you don't have to choose. We'll figure this out. Together." For the first time in years, Sam felt a glimmer of hope. The fear that had held her captive for so long didn't disappear entirely, but with Lucy standing before her, unwavering in her support, it didn't feel quite so overwhelming. "Are you sure?" Sam asked, her voice small but hopeful. "This isn't just about me. It's about Emma. She's my priority." Lucy smiled, her hand brushing a stray tear from Sam's cheek. "I'd like to meet her someday," she said simply. Sam let out a shaky laugh, the weight in her chest easing just a little. Someday, she said, a faint smile breaking through her tears. For now, they stood together in the quiet of Lucy's apartment, the truth between them finally revealed. It wasn't easy and it wouldn't be simple, but for the first time, Sam didn't feel so alone. And that, she realized, was enough to keep moving forward. Lucy sat on the edge of the couch, staring at her hands as Sam's confession hung in the air between them. A daughter. Emma. The name echoed in her mind, carrying the weight of an entire life Lucy hadn't known existed. She looked up at Sam, who was pacing the room, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. Sam's usual composed demeanor was gone, replaced by an unease Lucy hadn't seen before. She was fidgety, her movements restless, as though she were waiting for a verdict she couldn't control. I don't know what to say, Lucy admitted, her voice quieter than usual. Sam stopped pacing, her shoulders sagging as she turned to face Lucy. I'm sorry, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I should have told you sooner. You deserved to know the truth. Lucy nodded slowly, her thoughts swirling. Yeah. Well, kid Sam? I never would have guessed. Sam's lips pressed into a thin line, her expression a mixture of guilt and resignation. I know it's a lot to take in, she said softly. That's why I tried to pull back. I thought maybe it would be easier for you. Easier for me or easier for you? Lucy asked, the edge in her voice surprising even herself. Sam flinched, her gaze dropping to the floor. Both, she admitted after a moment. The silence stretched, heavy and uncomfortable. Lucy ran a hand through her hair, trying to process everything Sam had just shared. The image of the confident, composed lawyer she thought she knew was now layered with something deeper, something far more complex. Lucy had always prided herself on being independent, on keeping things simple and easy. But this? A child, an ex who sounded like a nightmare, and the looming threat of a custody battle? This wasn't simple. It wasn't just about them anymore. I don't know if I'm ready for this, Lucy said finally, her voice trembling slightly. I've never been in anything this serious before. I mean, a kid, Sam. That's huge. Sam's face fell and she took a step closer. I know, she said quickly. I know it's a lot and I don't expect you to be okay with it overnight. But please, Lucy, just don't walk away. Not yet. Lucy felt her chest tighten at the desperation in Sam's voice. It would have been so easy to let the fear win, to pull back and retreat into the safety of her uncomplicated life. But as she looked at Sam, the vulnerability in her eyes, the way her hands trembled slightly at her sides, Lucy knew she couldn't do it. I'm scared too, Lucy admitted, her voice soft but steady. I mean, I've been in some messy relationships, but nothing like this. This is a whole new level of complicated. Sam swallowed hard, her fingers twisting nervously. I get it. I do. And if you decide this isn't something you want, I'll understand. Lucy shook her head, a small, wry smile tugging at her lips. I don't want out, Sam. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it all. Sam exhaled shakily, her relief palpable. I didn't mean to drag you into this, she said, sitting down beside Lucy. I swear I didn't. But after the night we spent together, I couldn't stop thinking about you. And then you kept showing up and She stopped herself, taking a deep breath before continuing. I just didn't want to lose this. Lose you. Lucy's heart ached at the raw emotion in Sam's voice. She reached out, covering Sam's hand with her own. You're not going to lose me, she said firmly. They sat in silence for a moment, their hands intertwined. Lucy's mind raced with questions she didn't know how to ask, fears she didn't know how to voice. But beneath it all was the undeniable pull she felt towards Sam, the connection they had built despite everything. Tell me about her, Lucy said finally. Sam blinked, surprised. Emma? Lucy nodded. Yeah. Tell me about her. What's she like? A soft smile broke through Sam's tension, and her eyes brightened in a way Lucy hadn't seen before. She's amazing, Sam said, her voice warming with affection. She's smart and curious and has this laugh that just lights up a room. She loves drawing and building things with Legos. She's stubborn as hell, gets that from me, I think, but she's got such a big heart. Lucy couldn't help but smile as she listened to Sam talk about Emma. The way her face lit up, the pride in her voice, it was clear how deeply she loved her daughter. She sounds incredible, Lucy said softly. She is, Sam replied, her smile fading slightly. Which is why I have to be careful. If my ex finds out about us, about you, he'll use it against me. He's done it before. He'll claim that Emma's better off with him, that I'm not fit to be her mother because of who I am. Lucy frowned, her stomach twisting at the thought. That's awful. Sam nodded, her expression heavy. It is. And it's why I've kept my distance. I couldn't risk dragging you into that mess. Lucy tightened her grip on Sam's hand, her gaze steady. You don't have to protect me, Sam. I'm not going anywhere. Sam's eyes filled with emotion, and for the first time that night, Lucy saw a flicker of hope. You mean that? I do, Lucy said firmly. But you've got to let me in. No more half-truths, no more running away. We're in this together, okay? Sam nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. Okay. The road ahead was far from clear, but for the first time, Lucy felt like they were moving forward instead of running in circles. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew one thing for sure. Sam and Emma were worth fighting for. The news hit like a wrecking ball. Sam sat on the edge of her bed, her phone still clutched tightly in her hand as if holding it harder would change the words she'd just heard. Her ex-husband Mark had found out about Lucy. Somehow, through whispers or spies or maybe his own obsessive tendencies, he knew. And he wasn't going to let it go. He's going to file a motion to reopen the custody case, Sam said aloud, her voice trembling. Lucy, standing in the doorway, froze. She had just arrived, her usual warmth and affection radiating as she stepped inside, but now the atmosphere was thick with tension. Wait, what? Sam looked up, her eyes glassy and filled with fear. He knows about us, Lucy. He's using it. He says it proves I'm unstable, that my lifestyle is harmful to Emma. Lucy blinked, the words settling like stones in her chest. That's absurd, she said, crossing the room to sit beside Sam. He can't just. He can, Sam interrupted, her voice sharp with panic. He can try. He's done it before. And even though he didn't win, the stress, the lawyers, the court hearings, I can't go through that again. I can't risk losing Emma. Lucy placed a hand on Sam's knee, trying to steady her. Sam, listen to me. This is exactly what he wants. To scare you, to control you. But he doesn't have a case. You're an amazing mother. Anyone who spends 5 minutes with Emma can see that. Sam shook her head, her expression filled with doubt. It doesn't matter how good of a mother I am. All he has to do is plant the idea that Emma's better off with him. And in front of the wrong judge, that might be enough. Her voice cracked and she pressed her palms against her face, her shoulders shaking as she fought back tears. Lucy's heart twisted at the sight. Sam, who was always so composed, so in control, now looked utterly defeated. I don't know if I can fight him again, Sam whispered. You won't be fighting alone, Lucy said firmly. Sam's hands dropped to her lap, her wide, tear-filled eyes meeting Lucy's. Lucy, you don't understand. If it gets bad, if he drags you into it, if your name comes up, if he starts twisting things, it could destroy us. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to Emma. Lucy straightened, her hand moving to gently cup Sam's cheek. You don't get to decide what's fair for me, Sam, she said softly but with conviction. I'm here because I care about you. About Emma. I'm not going to run just because things are hard. Sam closed her eyes, leaning into Lucy's touch. You don't know what it's like, she murmured. The way he twists everything, the way he uses every little thing against me. I can't. You can, Lucy said, interrupting her gently. You can because you're not doing it alone. We'll figure this out. Together. The fight in Sam began to waver, the steel walls she had built around herself cracking under the force of Lucy's unwavering support. But what if he's right, she whispered. What if this, what we have, makes it harder for Emma? Lucy pulled back slightly, her hands gripping Sam's. Do you really believe that? Sam hesitated, her lips pressing together as she tried to find the answer. No, she said finally, her voice trembling. No, I don't. Then stop letting him make you feel like you're doing something wrong, Lucy said firmly. You deserve to be happy, Sam. And so does Emma. She deserves to see her mom loved and supported and cared for. That's not harmful. That's what she needs. Sam's tears spilled over, but this time they carried something softer, relief. Hope. The next day, Mark's threats became more tangible. A lawyer's letter arrived at Sam's office, officially stating his intent to challenge her custody arrangement. The words were cold and calculated, designed to intimidate. Sam read the letter twice, her stomach sinking with each line, but Lucy was there, standing by her side. "We're not backing down," Lucy said as Sam set the letter on her desk. "You have rights, Sam. You're a great mom. We'll fight this." Sam nodded, the weight of the situation still heavy but no longer crushing. "Okay," she said, her voice steadier than it had been in days. That night as they sat on Lucy's couch, Lucy took Sam's hand in hers. "What's our first step?" Sam looked at her, the corner of her mouth lifting in the faintest smile. "First I call my lawyer," she said. "And after that?" Sam hesitated, her eyes scanning Lucy's face. "We figure it out. Together." Lucy leaned in, pressing a kiss to Sam's forehead. "Damn right we do." And for the first time since Mark's threats began, Sam felt like she wasn't just surviving, she was moving forward. Together. The sun dipped low on the horizon as Lucy and Sam sat across from a sharp-eyed attorney in a sleek office, the sound of typing faintly echoing from the assistant outside. Legal documents lay spread across the desk, annotated with notes and tabs, a testament to the battles already fought and the one now looming. Lucy's hand rested on Sam's knee under the table, a silent reassurance as the lawyer explained their options. "We'll need to focus on Emma's stability," the attorney said, adjusting her glasses. "Your history as her primary caregiver, her school performance, her emotional well-being, all of that will be critical. Mark's threats are empty without evidence that you've created an unsafe environment." Sam nodded, her jaw tight. "He'll say anything to twist the narrative. He already started when he found out about Lucy." The lawyer's gaze flicked to Lucy, who straightened in her chair. "Lucy, your presence in Sam's life could be seen as a positive or a negative, depending on how it's framed. We'll need to be prepared for personal questions about your relationship." "I'm not going anywhere," Lucy said firmly, glancing at Sam. "Whatever he throws at us, I'm here." Sam's hand found Lucy's under the table, her grip warm and grateful. For a moment, the attorney's stern expression softened. "Good," the lawyer said, nodding. "We'll need that kind of resolve." Over the following weeks, the battle for Emma's custody became a defining force in their lives. Court dates loomed on the calendar like storm clouds, and meetings with the lawyer became as frequent as meals. Yet amidst the tension, a quiet resilience began to grow between them, a partnership forged in the fire of adversity. One evening, after a long day of preparing documents, Sam surprised Lucy with a shy smile. "Emma wants to meet you," she said softly. Lucy's heart leaped and sank at the same time. "Are you sure? I mean, what if it's too soon?" "She knows about you," Sam replied, her voice steady but warm. "And she's curious. She asked if the lady who makes me smile so much would like to join us for a movie night." Lucy couldn't help but grin, though a nervous flutter rose in her chest. "A movie night, huh? What's on the menu?" "Popcorn, Disney, and a very opinionated 6-year-old, Sam said with a laugh. That Friday, Lucy found herself at Sam's door, clutching a bag of snacks and feeling a nervous excitement she hadn't experienced since her first date with Sam. When the door opened, Emma was the first to greet her, a bundle of energy with wild curls and a mischievous smile. "You're Lucy," Emma declared, staring up at her with wide, curious eyes. "And you must be Emma," Lucy said, kneeling to meet her at eye level. "I've heard so much about you." Emma grinned, her confidence as bright as her mother's. "Do you like popcorn?" "Love it." "Then you can stay," Emma said decisively, grabbing Lucy's hand and dragging her toward the couch. Sam watched from the doorway, her heart swelling at the sight of Emma and Lucy together. For the first time in weeks, the weight on her shoulders felt lighter. The movie night was a chaotic mix of giggles, spilled popcorn, and Emma's enthusiastic commentary about her favorite princesses. Lucy found herself enchanted, not just by Emma's energy but by the way Sam's face softened as she watched her daughter. When Emma fell asleep midway through the second movie, curled up against Lucy's side, Sam gently took the bowl of popcorn from Lucy's lap and set it on the table. "She likes you," Sam whispered, her smile small but genuine. Lucy looked down at Emma, her heart unexpectedly full. "She's incredible, Sam. You've done such an amazing job with her." Sam's eyes shimmered with emotion. "I couldn't have gotten this far without you," she admitted. As the custody case escalated, Lucy found herself becoming more involved in Emma's life. She helped with bedtime stories, picked out art supplies, and became a quiet but steady presence in their home. Emma, too young to fully understand the tension surrounding her, brought light to the darkest days. Her laughter filled the house, and her affection for Lucy grew with each passing day. One afternoon, as Lucy helped Emma build a Lego tower, the little girl looked up at her and asked, "Are you going to stay with us forever?" The question caught Lucy off guard, and she glanced at Sam, who stood in the kitchen watching with a tender smile. "I hope so," Lucy said honestly, her voice soft. Emma grinned, satisfied with the answer. The bond between the three of them became a source of strength as the court date approached. Lucy's presence in Sam's life, once seen as a potential liability, now felt like an anchor. "You're not just fighting for Emma," Lucy told Sam one night as they lay in bed, their fingers intertwined. "You're fighting for the family you've built. And I'll be here every step of the way." Sam pressed a kiss to Lucy's forehead, her heart full despite the storm ahead. "Thank you," she whispered. "Always," Lucy replied. And in that moment, amidst the uncertainty and the challenges, they found hope, not just in their fight for Emma, but in the life they were building together. The courtroom was a cold, sterile place, its silence broken only by the rustle of papers and the murmur of attorneys exchanging quiet words. Sam sat at the defendant's table, her back straight and hands folded tightly in her lap. Her lawyer, a formidable woman with sharp eyes, whispered last-minute assurances, but Sam barely registered them. Her gaze flickered to the gallery, where Lucy sat with Emma's favorite stuffed bunny peeking out of her bag. Lucy's expression was steady, her presence radiating calm strength. She gave Sam a small, encouraging smile, and Sam felt a flicker of warmth amidst the storm raging inside her. At the opposite table sat Mark, his lawyer leaning in to deliver what Sam imagined was another calculated line meant to unnerve her. Mark's smug confidence made her stomach churn, but she refused to look away. This wasn't just about him. It was about Emma. The judge called the court to order and the proceedings began. Mark's lawyer stood first, delivering a polished argument laden with insinuations. He painted Sam's personal life as reckless, suggesting that her relationship with Lucy disrupted Emma's stability. Sam clenched her fists under the table, her jaw tightening as Mark nodded along with his lawyer's every word. "Your Honor," Mark's lawyer concluded, "it's clear that the environment Ms. Miller has created is not conducive to raising a young child. My client simply wants what's best for Emma." Sam's lawyer rose next, her measured voice slicing through the tension. She countered every point with precision, highlighting Sam's unwavering dedication to Emma's well-being. "Ms. Miller has been the primary caregiver since Emma's birth," she argued. "She has provided a stable, loving home and has consistently prioritized her daughter's needs. The introduction of Ms. Harper into their lives has only strengthened that environment, adding support and stability, not disrupting it." When it was time for Sam to take the stand, her heart pounded so loudly she thought it might drown out the sound of her own voice. She took a deep breath as she was sworn in, then glanced at Lucy one last time before meeting the judge's gaze. Sam's voice was steady as she answered the initial questions, but when her lawyer asked her to speak about Emma and her relationship with Lucy, the weight of the moment settled heavily on her shoulders. "Emma is everything to me," Sam began, her voice soft but resolute. "She's my reason for every choice I've made since the day she was born. I've worked hard to create a life where she feels loved, safe and supported." She paused, gathering her thoughts before continuing. "And Lucy has become a part of that. She didn't just show up in my life, she showed up in Emma's too. She's kind and patient and Emma adores her. The time we've spent together has brought so much joy into our lives." Sam's gaze shifted briefly to Mark, her voice hardening. "My ex-husband wants to use my happiness against me. He thinks that loving someone makes me less of a mother. But I won't let him dictate how I live or how I raise my daughter. Emma deserves to see what love looks like. She deserves to see her mother treated with kindness and respect. And she deserves the stability we've built together." Her voice cracked slightly, but she pressed on. "Being with Lucy doesn't make me a worse mother. It makes me better. Because I'm not facing this alone anymore. And that's the kind of example I want to set for Emma, that it's okay to lean on the people who love you." When Lucy was called to the stand, her stomach knotted with nerves, but she masked it with determination. She described her relationship with both Sam and Emma, her words full of genuine affection. "Emma is bright and curious and has the most infectious laugh," Lucy said with a small smile. "She's the kind of kid who lights up a room. And Sam is an incredible mother. She juggles so much and always makes sure Emma knows she's loved. I admire her more than I can put into words." When Mark's lawyer tried to twist her words, Lucy remained composed, her responses measured and unwavering. "I'm here because I care about Sam and Emma," she said firmly. "And no matter what happens, that won't change." The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the judge prepared to deliver her ruling. Sam's hands trembled slightly as she reached for Lucy's under the table. Lucy squeezed gently, her silent reassurance grounding Sam in the moment. After a long pause, the judge spoke. "After reviewing the evidence and testimony, it's clear to me that Ms. Miller has provided a stable and loving environment for her daughter. The court sees no reason to alter the current custody arrangement. Custody will remain with Ms. Miller." The words felt like a lifeline thrown into a stormy sea. Sam exhaled sharply, her body sagging with relief as Lucy pulled her into a tight embrace. That night back at home, Sam sat with Emma on the couch, the little girl oblivious to the battle that had just been won for her sake. Lucy watched them from the doorway, her heart swelling at the sight of them together. When Emma finally drifted off to sleep, Sam turned to Lucy, her expression a mixture of exhaustion and gratitude. "I couldn't have done this without you," she said softly. Lucy shook her head, a smile breaking across her face. "You're stronger than you think, Sam. But I'm glad I could be here for you." Sam reached for Lucy's hand, pulling her close. "I was so scared of letting you in," she admitted. "But now I can't imagine doing any of this without you." Lucy leaned down, pressing a gentle kiss to Sam's forehead. "You'll never have to," she promised. And as they sat together, the quiet of the night wrapping around them, Sam felt a peace she hadn't known in years. The fight wasn't just about keeping Emma. It was about finding a future worth fighting for. And with Lucy by her side, that future finally felt possible. The park buzzed with life on the warm spring afternoon. Children ran laughing through the grass, their voices mixing with the distant hum of a carousel and the soft chatter of families enjoying the sunshine. The air carried the sweet scent of blooming flowers and freshly mowed grass, a perfect backdrop to a day that felt like a celebration of new beginnings. Lucy walked slightly ahead, her hand loosely holding Emma's as they navigated the winding paths. Emma swung her arm dramatically with every step, her face alight with excitement. "Lucy, look," she exclaimed, pointing to a group of kids chasing bubbles near a fountain. Sam followed close behind, her eyes lingering on the scene with a quiet, contented smile. It was the first time in a long while that she felt a genuine lightness, a peace that wasn't fleeting or forced. Her daughter's laughter echoed in her ears, and Lucy's presence was as steady and grounding as the sun overhead. "Can we go see the bubbles?" Emma asked, looking up at Lucy with wide, hopeful eyes. Lucy crouched to Emma's level, her grin matching the little girl's. "Only if you promise not to pop every single one," she teased, poking Emma lightly on the nose. Emma giggled, grabbing Lucy's hand tighter. "I'll save some," she promised before tugging her toward the fountain. Sam watched them go, her chest tightening in the best way. She'd been so afraid to let Lucy into their lives, afraid of what it might mean, but now, watching them together, she couldn't imagine things any other way. At the fountain, Lucy helped Emma chase the bubbles, her laughter ringing out as she dodged an enthusiastic group of children. Sam joined them, her reserved demeanor slipping away as she was drawn into Emma's antics. "Got it!" Emma shouted, clapping her hands around a particularly large bubble, which promptly burst. At the opposite table sat Mark, his lawyer leaning in to deliver what Sam imagined was another calculated line meant to unnerve her. Mark's smug confidence made her stomach churn, but she refused to look away. This wasn't just about him. It was about Emma. The judge called the court to order and the proceedings began. Mark's lawyer stood first, delivering a polished argument laden with insinuations. He painted Sam's personal life as reckless, suggesting that her relationship with Lucy disrupted Emma's stability. Sam clenched her fists under the table, her jaw tightening as Mark nodded along with his lawyer's every word. "Your Honor," Mark's lawyer concluded, "it's clear that the environment Ms. Miller has created is not conducive to raising a young child. My client simply wants what's best for Emma." Sam's lawyer rose next, her measured voice slicing through the tension. She countered every point with precision, highlighting Sam's unwavering dedication to Emma's well-being. "Ms. Miller has been the primary caregiver since Emma's birth," she argued. "She has provided a stable, loving home and has consistently prioritized her daughter's needs. The introduction of Ms. Harper into their lives has only strengthened that environment, adding support and stability, not disrupting it. When it was time for Sam to take the stand, her heart pounded so loudly she thought it might drown out the sound of her own voice. She took a deep breath as she was sworn in, then glanced at Lucy one last time before meeting the judge's gaze. Sam's voice was steady as she answered the initial questions, but when her lawyer asked her to speak about Emma and her relationship with Lucy, the weight of the moment settled heavily on her shoulders. "Emma is everything to me," Sam began, her voice soft but resolute. "She's my reason for every choice I've made since the day she was born. I've worked hard to create a life where she feels loved, safe and supported." She paused, gathering her thoughts before continuing. "And Lucy? Lucy has become a part of that. She didn't just show up in my life, she showed up in Emma's too. She's kind and patient and Emma adores her. The time we've spent together has brought so much joy into our lives." Sam's gaze shifted briefly to Mark, her voice hardening. "My ex-husband wants to use my happiness against me. He thinks that loving someone makes me less of a mother. But I won't let him dictate how I live or how I raise my daughter. Emma deserves to see what love looks like. She deserves to see her mother treated with kindness and respect. And she deserves the stability we've built together." Her voice cracked slightly, but she pressed on. "Being with Lucy doesn't make me a worse mother. It makes me better. Because I'm not facing this alone anymore. And that's the kind of example I want to set for Emma. That it's okay to lean on the people who love you." When Lucy was called to the stand, her stomach knotted with nerves, but she masked it with determination. She described her relationship with both Sam and Emma, her words full of genuine affection. "Emma is bright and curious and has the most infectious laugh," Lucy said with a small smile. "She's the kind of kid who lights up a room. And Sam is an incredible mother. She juggles so much and always makes sure Emma knows she's loved. I admire her more than I can put into words." When Mark's lawyer tried to twist her words, Lucy remained composed, her responses measured and unwavering. "I'm here because I care about Sam and Emma," she said firmly. "And no matter what happens, that won't change." The tension in the courtroom was palpable as the judge prepared to deliver her ruling. Sam's hands trembled slightly as she reached for Lucy's under the table. Lucy squeezed gently, her silent reassurance grounding Sam in the moment. After a long pause, the judge spoke. "After reviewing the evidence and testimony, it's clear to me that Ms. Miller has provided a stable and loving environment for her daughter. The court sees no reason to alter the current custody arrangement. Custody will remain with Ms. Miller." The words felt like a lifeline thrown into a stormy sea. Sam exhaled sharply, her body sagging with relief as Lucy pulled her into a tight embrace. That night back at home, Sam sat with Emma on the couch, the little girl oblivious to the battle that had just been won for her sake. Lucy watched them from the doorway, her heart swelling at the sight of them together. When Emma finally drifted off to sleep, Sam turned to Lucy, her expression a mixture of exhaustion and gratitude. "I couldn't have done this without you," she said softly. Lucy shook her head, a smile breaking across her face. "You're stronger than you think, Sam. But I'm glad I could be here for you." Sam reached for Lucy's hand, pulling her close. "I was so scared of letting you in," she admitted. "But now I can't imagine doing any of this without you." Lucy leaned down, pressing a gentle kiss to Sam's forehead. "You'll never have to," she promised. And as they sat together, the quiet of the night wrapping around them, Sam felt a peace she hadn't known in years. The fight wasn't just about keeping Emma. It was about finding a future worth fighting for. And with Lucy by her side, that future finally felt possible. The park buzzed with life on the warm spring afternoon. Children ran laughing through the grass, their voices mixing with the distant hum of a carousel and the soft chatter of families enjoying the sunshine. The air carried the sweet scent of blooming flowers and freshly mowed grass, a perfect backdrop to a day that felt like a celebration of new beginnings. Lucy walked slightly ahead, her hand loosely holding Emma's as they navigated the winding paths. Emma swung her arm dramatically with every step, her face alight with excitement. "Lucy, look," she exclaimed, pointing to a group of kids chasing bubbles near a fountain. Sam followed close behind, her eyes lingering on the scene with a quiet, contented smile. It was the first time in a long while that she felt a genuine lightness, a peace that wasn't fleeting or forced. Her daughter's laughter echoed in her ears, and Lucy's presence was as steady and grounding as the sun overhead. Can we go see the bubbles? Emma asked, looking up at Lucy with wide, hopeful eyes. Lucy crouched to Emma's level, her grin matching the little girl's. Only if you promise not to pop every single one, she teased, poking Emma lightly on the nose. Emma giggled, grabbing Lucy's hand tighter. I'll save some, she promised before tugging her toward the fountain. Sam watched them go, her chest tightening in the best way. She'd been so afraid to let Lucy into their lives, afraid of what it might mean, but now, watching them together, she couldn't imagine things any other way. At the fountain, Lucy helped Emma chase the bubbles, her laughter ringing out as she dodged an enthusiastic group of children. Sam joined them, her reserved demeanor slipping away as she was drawn into Emma's antics. Got it! Emma shouted, clapping her hands around a particularly large bubble, which promptly burst. That's one down, Lucy said mock seriously. How many more do we have to save? Emma paused, tapping her chin dramatically as if deep in thought. 1,000,000. Sam chuckled, leaning down to pick Emma up and spin her around. Emma squealed in delight, her giggles infectious. 1,000,000, huh? That's going to take all day, Sam said, settling her daughter on her hip. Lucy stepped closer, brushing a stray hair from Sam's face. Good thing we've got time, she said softly, her voice carrying a warmth that made Sam's heart flutter. Later, the three of them found a shady spot under a tree near the edge of the park. Lucy spread out a blanket she'd brought, and they all collapsed onto it, laughing and catching their breath. Emma flopped dramatically onto her back, staring up at the clouds. That one looks like a dragon, she said, pointing to a fluffy formation drifting lazily across the sky. Lucy lay back beside her, squinting up at the clouds. I see it. But I think it looks more like a dog wearing a hat. A dragon with a dog hat, Emma declared, making Lucy laugh. Sam sat cross-legged, her hands resting on her knees as she watched them. She didn't say much, but her gaze spoke volumes. There was a tenderness in the way she looked at Lucy, a gratitude she couldn't quite put into words. As the sun dipped lower in the sky, painting everything in soft gold, Emma curled up between them, her energy finally waning. Lucy draped a light jacket over her, brushing a kiss to the top of her head. Sam shifted closer, her shoulder brushing against Lucy's. Thank you, she said quietly, her voice full of meaning. Lucy turned to her, her brow furrowing slightly. For what? For being here, Sam said simply. For being patient. For loving us. Lucy's heart swelled and she reached for Sam's hand, lacing their fingers together. I should be thanking you, she said. For letting me in. For trusting me with all of this. Sam leaned her head against Lucy's shoulder, her voice barely above a whisper. I didn't think I'd ever have this again. Lucy kissed the top of Sam's head, her voice steady. You deserve it, Sam. Both of you do. As the park grew quieter, the carousel lights flickering on in the distance, Lucy, Sam, and Emma stayed there under the tree, wrapped in the warmth of a love that felt unshakable. The journey to this moment had been anything but easy. It had been messy and complicated, filled with fear and doubt. But as Lucy looked at Sam and Emma, she knew it had been worth every step. This wasn't the life Lucy had imagined for herself. It was better. It was real. And as the three of them sat together, laughing softly and dreaming out loud, she realized that what had started as a chance encounter in a storm had become something extraordinary. It wasn't just a future they were building. It was a family.